presidential candidate Nana Addo Akufo-Addo has continued his campaign tour and was in one of the northern regions, that's northern Ghana region, so to speak, and he is promising a dam in every village as a policy to help boost irrigation for agriculture in those areas.
Are those necessary resources for human development? If they are, if that's what we require to develop the people in those areas, why shouldn't it be a goal that we should all aspire to granting our fellow human beings, our fellow citizens? I think it is in the right direction. If that calls for their proper development, I think it is in order. Why shouldn't it be? And they're part of Ghana, and they're Ghanaians. And if it has been overdue, and it has become an issue to the extent that one who is going to take control of the resources, the natural resources of this land, and the ability to borrow, cannot take that decision, then I'm afraid, where is the leadership going?
But appropriately, promising to have a dam in one village, and for example, in the Gonja area, for example, we know that the Ministry of Agriculture have chanced on a statement or a policy document, which also seems to indicate just even in the Gonja area alone, they will need in excess of just a little over 100 dams, small dams, so to speak, for each villages.
Right.
That seems to be an enormous task or an ambitious task, so to speak.
Well, have you quantified the resources required to attain or to achieve that? If you haven't quantified and you don't know how it is to be funded, then my brother, let's not waste our time.
Well, the announcement is coming from your camp. Why don't you tell us how you intend funding all that?
Well, if you need seek further particulars or clarification or clarity, you seek and you shall be given. But I don't think you have the right to jump and condemn such a laudable idea of supplying needy people who require these services. I mean, how on earth can you dismiss it as Ethiopia just because there are hundreds of those dams involved? Please, can you tell me the cost of a simple dam? I don't know the size of the dam we are talking about, and for that matter, its quantification. But I'm sure general quantification has been done, and the flag bearer, in his own mind, believes that it is achievable, and that he has to put that to the people that it is achievable and it can be done.
Very well.
But if you don't give him the opportunity, how would you ever see it in reality? That becomes a daunting issue.
Very well. That seems more like an appropriate response, especially knowing that we have farming communities in the 3 northern regions that would need this very resource. Your government has been talking about irrigation, etc., but seems to do little on the ground. And this one seems to be a policy initiative that could revolutionize agriculture and production in the sector.
Well, Roland, I don't know if it's a policy by the MPP.
Yes, it will be. It's been announced.
There's no documentation.
It's official.
I mean, the fact that it's been announced, that didn't make it a policy. Because I recall in 2005, Honorable Kwame Bates making a statement to that effect that the government intends to encourage all MPs to go into farming, and even quoted over 500 million for them.
I remember that.
The next morning, government issued a statement that it wasn't a government policy. They died off.
Well, true. But this one is coming from the flag bearer, the leader of the main party that is contesting you or your party in the main election.
Yeah.
How else would you want that to be more appropriate than that?
The leader of the MPP then in 1999, before the 2000 election, raised up the hopes of Ghanaians that when I come, I'll reduce fuel. He came and increased fuel.
So
the fact that is being said by the opposition leader doesn't make it a policy that they will implement.
Very well.
And to me, I think that is one of the populist campaign messages that
providing irrigation dams for many of the villages and communities in the north region.
Many.
It's a
not many.
It's a populist. It's a populist announcement.
Not many.
Okay.
Because from reading from the
various reports
it's giving me, it says one village, one dam. One village, one dam. So it means that every village will have a dam.
Very good then. That's a very good announcement.
You don't make these policies without the quantification. How much will go into it? I ended up a program with one of the MPP MPs, and he wants to, tell us that Nana meant boreholes as against the dams. But there are difference between dam and a borehole.
It's a dam. He announced. There's an insert to that
effect. You can use boreholes for irrigation, yes. But Nana is talking specifically about a dam. And if you go into the dictionary to want to find out what a dam is, then it will tell you like a bridge over water that is being protected not to overflow, for it to be used for some functions. And so if Nanado comes today and says that he will do one dam, one district, what Nana forgot, or whoever gave that policy to Nana Danko Akufo-Addo, is that before you can construct a dam, there should be a stream.
You mean a water source?
A water source. And so if you don't consider these things, and the fact that you want people to accept a message, and so anything I put out there, I'll get people to support, then you'll be making...
Let me tell you this. I grew up in a community called Ashaiman. We have a dam in the northern part of the community. It has no link to any water source. Well, how about that?
No, but that is a water source. Naturally,
there was nothing there. They constructed that. It collected water.
Ashama is in a waterlogged area.
Well, true.
Accra,
that part of Ashama is in a waterlogged area.
Anywhere you find water around, if you should dig down certain...
you get a lot more water.
You get water. But there are areas that you can go as far as 100 feet down. You will meet water.
So if a dam is constructed,
how are you going to construct a dam there?
I don't get you. So you are saying that if we have arable but savanna-like dam, savanna-like land, okay, you can't construct a dam there because it rains in large acreages part of the northern region, which water is not collected. It even goes to wash away many buildings and people's properties. How about that?
Roland,
if the water was collected in those areas, wouldn't it have been more feasible?
Roland, per your analogy, it means that a dam can be constructed when you dig a big hole, rain falls into it, then there's a dam.
That's not what I said.
No, that's what I deduced from what you said.
Okay, you go on.
But what you have forgotten is that if you dig the place, yes, if it rains, water will be collected in it. But it won't take you 1, 2, 3 weeks for the water to go down. So you can dig all right, but you won't have water in there to do what you intend doing. And irrigation, the purpose for dam irrigation is to have constant water
collected.
And so if the place is not a place that you will have water, you can't construct a dam there for it to be possible. You can only rely on rainfall farming. Secondly, you can only talk of borehole irrigations, which Nana didn't state, unless they come back again and want to refine that statement he made to say that areas that is impossible to have dams will use this method.
Okay.
But again,
so your argument is that it's not all areas that
it's not possible
that are feasible for the construction of
yes,
dams.
of course. Then again, another point is that if you go to Honorable's constituency, Asujama, Akosugbo, for instance,
you know
anywhere you dig, you should get water. If they have to turn a dam there. That dam can serve a number of villages. So if it is a well thought of policy, then Nana will know that you don't need to have dam in every village to irrigate.
Well, somebody will say this is very much peculiar or a feature of the NDC, just to dismiss policy ideas that have been coming from the MPP. You did that in the last election, for example, senior high school. You just dismissed it. But you even went on to say you do it progressively and decided even to build additional 200 schools, which you haven't even finished completing.
We didn't. We only gave a full policy as far as SHS was concerned, as against the populist policy that was being told.
And so you consider this idea also very populist?
Very populist. If it's not, that's why I'm saying that if you go to areas where you can construct a dam, how do you construct a dam to irrigate farm produce there? Secondly, if it's not a populist approach, you will get to know that. For instance, I think the last time I came here, we discussed something about the Palugu irrigation proposed by SADA, which is to irrigate 100,000 hectares of land.
That's a big ambition. You couldn't do it.
No, this is something that is being done.
Yes. You've known it's beyond since.
But the fact
there's
that
a policy document.
No, of course, we as a government did the visibility studies. We got to know that yes, indeed, if we have a dam there, any time the Burkinabe's spill off their dam, we won't be experiencing the flooding we are experiencing, because they to collect into that dam as well. And so that is a solution to solve that problem. And again, that will also help to irrigate 100,000 hectares of land. What I'm trying to put out here is that if one dam can irrigate 100,000 hectares, how many villages do you think the 100,000 hectares covers?
Perhaps you don't need a 100,000 hectare dam.
That's what I'm saying.
Perhaps it will be smaller. Perhaps it will be 10 hectares.
Of course, there are areas where you will find difficulties in getting a sizable amount of water to irrigate one or two communities. But for instance, his community, his constituency, if you want to construct a dam, you should be able to get a sizable amount of water, which will not be serving one community because it will be of no use. And so if it's a well thought of plan, Nana could have told me and people listening to him that we intend putting up dams
of this number,
but not to say one village, one dam.
Point has been. But it seems more like the NDC will seem to have any solution in terms of writing off whatever good proposal that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo will come up with.
I've been trying very hard to follow the trend of
the discussion,
argument.
His thoughts, so to speak.
I would suggest that it is even better to have a 3 months period of water than to have absolutely nothing. And even within the 3 months, as to how you store to take you to the next 6 months is very critical in human survival. So in that respect, I think I share his point that in certain areas you can have continuous, but at least you can have some to survive until the period where you need further. So if Nana says villages, as long as there are human habitats within our jurisdiction, then it is our responsibility to at least cater for them in terms of water, which is very, very critical to our survival. So whether it's a dam to one village or a number of villages within which area that you put so that the access to water becomes easier than previous, why not? Why can't we?
You think the NDC seems to be very much uncomfortable with the pronouncement of the MPP flag bearer?
Oh, I am not in their mindset to be able to articulate what goes in there. But for the ordinary person and the person who is stuck in that village that has for so long been chasing water, walking miles upon miles, if we are to be able to give them 3 months of reprieve at a certain point in time, I think they would say thank you. And that, for me, is not their... They shouldn't even say thank you, because it is their right to have water. If leaders like us decide that we will lead and manage the resources on their behalf, then it is our duty, our responsibility to make sure that the resources are managed in an equitable, accountable, and transparent manner to give them.
So do I get it from you? You're saying that we spend all these resources, do the one dam per village policy undertaking, and even if it's a facility that's only going to sustain for 3 months, those residents of those communities, that's enough?
No. I'm
What
saying
are you
that
saying
a
there?
journey of 1,000 miles begin with a step, rather than dismissing that journey completely, that it is 1,000 miles and you need to go on a stretch. No, you need to move steadily. So right now there is nothing. It is flat land.
Okay.
So when the rainwater pours, it cannot be harvested.
Mr. Samuel, do you know that constructing dams is an act of engineering?
Technical.
Okay, so it involves some level of feasibility studies.
So
The MPP, do you think the flag bearers camp have done those feasibility studies?
or looks in to underrate the incoming administration. The leader of the incoming administration is so below the belt. Let us not pursue it from that angle. Obviously, these things are not being announced for its fanciful nature or sake. Let's be serious about the alternate government, and not reduce the debate or the conversation into ridicule, because we are serious about taking control of the management of this country. And if the flag bearer says that he has visited several villages within our jurisdiction, and it is necessary that a leader puts their foot down so that water can be given to them through technical means, and once it is done and it eases off the period, the time within which one goes in search of water to produce or to drink, to produce food for sustenance, for income, for revenue generation, why are we not bringing our minds together in order to construct rather than to demolish?
That's very deep.
I don't know how deep your assessment on this, but the point is clear. I mean, it is simple. Honorable will have difficulties.
Well, your government has not been able to provide proper dams in terms of a wide array of facility like a dam for those communities that need it for agriculture. You have an alternative that is providing that very policy initiative, and you abruptly just dismiss it.
That is never true. I just want to give you some names. Maybe you can cross-check and find out. The government of the day has provided a lot of dams, and is in the process of providing them. As and where we feel and knows very well that it's possible to have them, we go into it. That is why we are challenging the point that it's not every place that you can construct a dam. And so I understood my honorable friend in the program I just came out of, trying to say that it's not all about putting up dams, but they can also talk of boreholes. And so Nanado can come back and tell us about boreholes as well. If he made mention of boreholes, borehole irrigation, he wouldn't have been wrong because it's part of irrigation.
You mean if he had combined the two and said dam and borehole?
Sure.
So where dam is not
then we'll
possible.
get to know that they've really thought of it. But for you to, meet the people and put it across and say we'll do dams across, knowing very well that there are places that you can't construct, you won't have the source in the first place. But at least I know that if you go to Keta, Segbe Junction, near Polu, you find a dam. If you go to Akache South, you have one there. If you go to Agoveme in the South Town, you have one there. At least these are the pictures I can show you, constructed by the NDC government. These are dams for irrigation.
I know what a dam is. I've told you I lived in Ashama and we had a dam.
So
there.
You've seen this. Is it a dam?
Well, a dam is a dam. I know how a dam looks like.
So I've just given
that's why I asked him it's an act of engineering.
So I've just given you names of the communities that these dams have been put up.
You haven't been able to construct enough. A flag bearer of the leading opposition party says that if I come into government and voted for, this is what I want to do for the people. So it's not at your convenience. So you want to dismiss it? Not
at all. We as a government wouldn't want to give promises that you know you can't do. John Dramani Mahama gives realistic promises. We don't give populist promises. For instance, Nanad comes and say that I'll do free secondary schools. Free secondary school by math is good. But we don't do free secondary schools just by word of mouth. There should be places that the students.
Are you doing free secondary schools? Your government.
By putting up the.
I'm asking your government. Is your government
doing it?
Okay, so why don't you think that the MPP can do it?
So you see, the government of the day started by putting up more schools in addition to what we have, so that when we start enrolling the free secondary school policy that is in the constitution, we won't be disadvantaging some of the kids we intend to give them good education. Now, the government, again, as it stands now, cannot roll it out completely. So it has started from the day students. Move into it before we get to the boarding ones. Then we know that we have free secondary school. That is a realistic policy, and it moves in stages. The government of the day today says that we need to industrialize our economy, and so factories are being rebuilt. Collapsed ones are being, revamped. And so you can talk of the shoe factory. I've said this on several platforms. I was in Kumasi in 2004, ran up to the 2004 elections. The then regional minister, Honorable Samson Kwakubuaf, stood on the last campaign platform of the MPP in Ashanti region and said they will be recommissioning the shoe factory on 7th November, but failed to give a year. And so the 7th November 2014, the shoe factory was not reopened. 7th November 2005, the shoe factory wasn't reopened. 2006, reopening. 2007, 2008, it got reopened in 2011.
Is it working now?
It's working today.
Okay, I can't find the shoes. I have to buy.
Go there and find out.
I have to buy foreign made
shoes.
Go
there and find out.
What type of shoes are they?
Any shoe that you go in there, at least today, the kids that are being supplied sandals from the shoe factory, the military purchase their shoes from their boots from the shoe factory. But again, you can talk of the sugar factory. It's being revamped. You can talk of the tomato factory. You can talk of these factories that have been revamped.
Okay.
Moving into it gradually.
You've made your point.
That is a realistic policy. The government
you've made your point.
Putting up dams.
It's okay.
Step by step.
It's okay with the dam issue. You are milking this issue. Now, I have to give you the last point, and then we'll wrap up for the show. The flag bearer of the party, though, that Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, seemed to have just blanketly said that it will be suicidal or a mistake for another 4 years to be given to the NDC government to stay in power.
On
what account?
On the antecedents. On the antecedents
which are?
From 2009, measurement of the resources that has passed the hands of the government of President Mills, President Mahama, and Kwesi Emisa. If you look at the quantum of resources, both internal and external, and you measure that against the development of the people in terms of the people having employment, to be able to access some of these resources that either through borrowing or through our own natural resources development, you see that the scale is tipped. It's not balanced, and it is upon that basis that the flag bearer could come out openly and with clarity state that the people would have to measure their resources and how it went to work for them, and whether they are better off today than 8 years ago when they were given the opportunity to manage the resources on their behalf.
And that is why they have to perhaps make the choice whether to give additional 4 years or not.
Precisely.
And then
to take it to 12 years.
And then the MPP will be the most appropriate also to take over.
Given that they gave us 8 years mandate for President Kufuor to 2009, and saw the work we did with the resources at that time which they gave to us, as opposed to the current resources that has been given to the current administration from its inception of 2009, then I think that call would be appropriate in the circumstances.
Kofi Osei is a member of parliament for Isujaman, and then also Joseph Yami is a deputy coordinator for the National Disaster Management Organization. Thanks for joining me, gentlemen.